You know, there's this thrill to owning something different, something wild, an animal that kind of connects you to a world that's way beyond our everyday lives. But what's the real story behind that fascination? Today, we're going to peel back the curtain on the exotic pet trade, and honestly, what we found is pretty shocking.
Okay, so just imagine this. You own a pet that has the intelligence of a kindergartner. The African gray parrot isn't just some beautiful bird. No, studies have actually shown they can outsmart a 5-year-old on certain thinking tasks and can learn a massive vocabulary. I mean, who wouldn't want a companion that smart?
Or how about this little guy? This is a sugar glider. It's this tiny marsupial that has a special flap of skin that lets it leap from a tree and just glide. We're talking the entire length of a football field. It's pretty much like having your own personal flying squirrel, only way cuter.
And then, of course, there's the call of the prehistoric. I mean, look at this thing. The green iguana, with its incredible green scales and that dinosaur-like look, seems like it walked straight off the set of Jurassic Park. You're bringing a living piece of the ancient world right into your house. The appeal is just, it's undeniable, right?
But here's where things take a turn, because all those incredible abilities and unique looks, they come with incredibly complicated needs. So what actually happens when that initial wow factor fades and the day-to-day reality of caring for a truly wild animal kicks in? Let's talk about size for starters. A lot of these animals, they're sold as these cute, totally manageable babies. But here's the thing, they grow. And sometimes they grow so much, it becomes a huge problem. Let's take the sulcata tortoise as the perfect, and I mean very large, example of this.
See that tiny little hatchling you might pick up at a pet store? Well, it turns into a so-called gentle giant that can weigh up to 90 kilograms. That's heavier than a lot of adult people. This is not a pet that you can just keep in a glass tank. It demands a completely different kind of home.
And they have these powerful, ancient instincts. Out in the wild, sulcatas dig these really deep burrows to get away from the heat. That instinct doesn't just switch off because they're in your backyard. Just listen to what happened to reptile expert Keenan Harkin when one of his tortoises tunneled out. Dealing with this isn't just pet care, it's a major construction project.
And this is where the problem really hits home. We're talking about burrows that can go 15 meters deep. The Burpee Museum in Illinois knows this all too well. Their resident sulcata, Tortilla, has a reputation for literally breaking through drywall and toppling heavy furniture. This is not, I repeat, not an apartment pet.
So beyond the sheer physical space, there's another thing most people just aren't ready for: time. Owning one of these animals isn't some short-term hobby. We're talking about a commitment that can span generations. An African gray can live for 70 years. And a sulcata tortoise? It could live up to 120 years. You literally have to be prepared to write your pet into your will. And their needs go way beyond just food and water. A parrot that's bored can get so anxious that it starts pulling out its own feathers. A sugar glider, which lives in these big colonies in the wild, can get seriously depressed if it's kept all alone. And reptiles like iguanas and tortoises, they need special UVB lighting and heat to process calcium. If they don't get it, they develop these incredibly painful and life-threatening bone diseases. So we've seen how tough it can be for the owner. But what about the animal's journey to even get to that owner? Well, the truth about the global supply chain, it's often dark, it's brutal, and a lot of the time it's flat out illegal.
I want you to just let this number sink in for a minute. 90%. For some species of parrots that are caught in the wild, that's how many die. Because of the stress and the awful conditions of being captured and shipped, up to 9 out of every 10 birds are dead before they ever even make it to a store.
And the scale of the legal trade is just mind-blowing. Get this, between 2015 and 2021, one single city, Hong Kong, imported more than 119,000 sulcata tortoises. That kind of demand puts enormous pressure on wild populations, even when the animals are supposedly bred in captivity.
And that brings us to this really critical idea, animal laundering. Basically, it's a scam where illegally poached animals, or sometimes their eggs, are mixed into legal shipments and just get a fake captive bred label slapped on them. We have evidence of this happening with African greys, and conservationists are really worried that some so-called iguana farms are just harvesting wild iguanas to fuel the pet trade.
Okay, so this isn't just about one owner and one pet. The consequences of this trade ripple way, way out, affecting entire ecosystems, public health, and the very survival of these species in the wild. The impact is so much bigger than just one person's home.
First up, let's talk public safety. This is an Asian forest scorpion. It's a popular and pretty easy to find exotic pet.
But the thing is, the trade for animals like this is almost completely unmonitored. And oh yeah, it has a powerful, venomous sting.
And the potential effects of that venom, they're terrifying. According to government health warnings, a sting can mess with your eye movement, make it hard to swallow, cause you to stop breathing, and in some cases, it can even kill you. With thousands of different scorpion species out there, a lot of them looking alike, it's a huge gamble for an unsuspecting buyer.
When you've got the ecological damage, when a pet that isn't native to an area escapes or, more often, gets released by an owner who can't handle it anymore, it can become what's known as an invasive species. Basically, it's an animal that sets up shop in a new place, starts beating out the local wildlife for food and shelter, and just throws the entire ecosystem completely out of whack.
And this is not some hypothetical scenario. It's really happening. Green iguanas have created these destructive, reproducing populations in places like Florida. And sugar gliders, which were introduced to Tasmania, have had a devastating effect on native birds there. The pet that someone decided they just couldn't handle anymore becomes a literal plague on the environment.
And that all leads us to the final and most heartbreaking irony of all. On the left, you see the sucatata tortoise, one of the most popular pet reptiles on the entire planet. And on the right, you see its official status in the wild: endangered. The massive global demand for these animals as pets is one of the biggest reasons they're being driven toward extinction in their natural habitat.
So here's the bottom line. The allure of owning an exotic pet is incredibly powerful. But when the price you see in a store completely hides the true costs, the cost to that animal's well-being, the cost to our safety, and the cost to entire ecosystems, we have to stop and ask ourselves a really tough question. Who is really paying the price?